Well, I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And on that note, I wanted to say, let's do that together. Because one of the things that I've learned, even by doing these different types of lives and things like that over the years and being out in the garden, that I often find myself not taking that time to really take a deep breath, to drop my shoulders, to unclench my jaw, and to align with where I'm supposed to be in that exact moment. And so let's do that together so that we can set the intentions for today's live from the very beginning. Let's take a deep breath. In the midst of that deep breath, we're going to let our shoulders drop. And I'm going to unclench my jaw. And let's get started. Now, this is the first time I've ever done a live on YouTube, so this is kind of a new experience for me. But I'm going to take my time. I'm going to use my notes. I'm going to do everything I can to stay in alignment so that I'm not just constantly reading off of some notes over here. But I want to talk to you guys a lot today about this concept of my garden as a sanctuary. And then I want to share some information with you about some upcoming events that I have going on, specifically as it relates to healing in your sanctuary. And for me, that was a garden. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. I'm going to go over here and do some sharing real quick. And then I will be right back. Okay, so we're live over there. And I've got all that going on. I also wanted to let you guys know that I have Joe Hilliard. That's my partner. He is over here watching this with me, and he's going to do some moderating for me. And so as I throughout this thing, you can look down here in the comments. Of course, you're welcome to comment. I hope you will. Subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Even set it up to my connection is there. It goes. It's back on again. I live out in the country, for those of you that don't know, and sometimes our connections get a little bit crossed out here. And that's the stuff that we're learning about as it relates to making the connections that we need to make. And I understand you so much for jumping on there. Good morning, everyone else out there. And Joe's going to be helping us out, like I said. I also want to make sure, after talking to you guys about a little of the stuff up front, the kind of the housekeeping of this whole thing, like I said, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then think about this. I'm going to be giving away a prize here at the end. What I would like for you to do, and like I mentioned, you got Joe over there. He's making a few comments. He's going to drop some links and do some things over there in the moderator section in the comment section over there. But I would love it if you would comment. And then what I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to ask Joe to do a drawing and draw from that, from the folks that have commented on this video and have joined in live. So if you're here, just say, I'm here. And if you've got a question, ask a question. If you've got a comment on the things that I'm saying, please be sure to just make a comment on their Facebook box. I think that actually that's a little bit of what you're going to begin seeing with some of that meta changes that are going to improve the network connections that we have available to us. For many reasons, moved here from California, and that's not unusual. There are lots of friends that are moving here from Texas, here to Texas from California. And one of the main things we talked about is this connection that we have available to us, because we're out living in places now where we maybe would never have lived before, doing the work that we do, because we have access to things through these connections that we never had before. And you know, the thing is that I learned a lot about that in the garden. I learned a lot of that about that when I was doing all of my gardening work and getting my hands in the dirt and learning about the connection. And so using the internet as an example and using the idea that here we are in rural spaces, making rural space for ourselves, making safe spaces for ourselves, all of us, finding the best place for us to be, whether that's way out in a rural area or whether that's in an urban area or somewhere in between in a suburban area, we still have to have the connection to people, whether we're touching people all the time or not. We still have to have that connection. And that's the way the entire universe works. So let's get into what we're talking about today. At the end, like I said, I'm going to give out a free private coaching call. Free private coaching call would be something we would do on Zoom. And I will set up a free opportunity for you to get a coaching time with me. Now, it can be focused on a thing that you're the most interested in. If it's about healing, it might be something about healing. If it's about personal wellness, if it's about gardening, there's different types of things. If it's about your new homesteading adventure that you're interested in, if it's about learning to quit your corporate job and moving into the next phase of life that is the most valuable to you, there are lots of things that I can do in a coaching call. And I'm going to give one of those away at the end of the live today. I'm going to do that based on people that are commenting on there and that are still available and around during the end call at the end. So get in there and do a comment, and that way I can give something away to you. In addition to that, I am going to be asking you all to share this live, share things that you see on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, anything that you see related to the 4-week intensive garden healing workshop that I'm going to be doing that starts on January the 2nd. Anything that you see from me that's about that, if you share it, I'm going to throw your name into a honey pot. I like to call it the honey pot. And I'm going to do a drawing on Friday. And on Friday, I'm going to be giving away to the person that shared and got their name drawn an actual free access to the 4-week intensive healing. It's a really good reason to share this. And one of the things that I've learned through all of my time in working in social media and through all of the different types of networking and connection work that I do, which is one of my biggest talents, expertises, the thing that I know best is networking and connection and making that organic connection. And in the social media world, we use advertising, we use all of those things, but now we're looking to make those organic connections. We're looking to actually get referral from a friend. So refer me if you're interested in this, and that will put you in a drawing to actually win free access to the 4-week healing intensive class. Friday, if you sign up for the 4-week intensive class that I'm going to be talking about over the next several days, that starts on January the 2nd, Friday at midnight. If you sign up by Friday at midnight, I'm also going to be giving you, every single person that signs up by Friday at midnight, free access to a coaching call as well. So those are some things coming up. So let's get started. 2020, I had the opportunity to actually give my TEDx talk. The first TEDx talks that I did was a food revolution in your hometown. How to start a food revolution in your hometown. And if you look back at some of the things that I've done, if you do a Google search, well, who is this woman and what is she doing? What is she up to? What you're going to find is that the tactical and practical experience that I have over the last couple of decades has been related to wellness, food security, understanding how food affects my body, understanding how food affects my children's bodies, and really getting an understanding of wellness and food security. And then not only that, but creating a network that helped us draw in other community members that have this interest, especially in an area like Deep South Texas, where this was kind of a new endeavor that we were stepping off into. This wasn't a situation where we had been discussing wellness and healing and how food affects our bodies really at all. And so that's what I've spent doing. And that's the very tactical and practical part of what I talk about and teach about as it relates to gardening and homesteading and food security and farmers markets and all of that kind of stuff I talk about. And that's what that first TEDx talk was about. And it was, you can see the path evolving. You can see the beginning stages of what was coming for me. But in 2020, I did get the opportunity to give another TEDx. And this time I had a speech in mind that was about my garden is a sanctuary. And the reason is because one of the things that I had learned in the short amount of time that I had been teaching gardening and creating spaces of access to gardening education for adults and children and all of these different folks, I began to understand that there was a higher level of learning and healing that was occurring in this sanctuary type space. And if you go back to that video, you can find it on my YouTube channel. Of course, it's in my Aislyn's Healthy Lifestyle playlist. There's several of the old videos that I've done in there. Some of my speeches are there, things like that. You're able to find that stuff there. Of course, you can just TEDx Cole Park, Aislinn Campbell, and you would find any of the TEDx speeches that I did in there as well. But the name of the speech, like I said, was My Garden is a Sanctuary. And I'm not going to go into it too much, but what you'll learn there is I have a traumatic past. I have quite a bit of post-traumatic stress disorder. And it really, in this lifetime, kicked off for me at about the age of 13, 14, in that age range. And it had to do with a major lawn mowing accident. And because of that, I have lived a lifetime of recognizing different types of traumatic events. I have also learned in this lifetime, that I have experience with taking pain and turning it into gold. I have had a history of making money or creating opportunity out of every traumatic crisis opportunity that could evolve from me. Now, some folks might say, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? I mean, you've basically alchemized pain. And one of the things that I say, my big connection point is my desire in life is to inspire you for your wellness, for your healing, for whatever that means for you, but also to alchemize pain. But one of the things that I've learned over this time and some of the healing that I did in my garden sanctuary, is beginning to understand that opportunity, success, joy, bliss, all of those things can occur without crisis. They can occur without trauma. They can occur without drama. They can occur without all of these types of things. But some folks, like myself, and I wrote these notes down, and I did some kind of just what I would call like handwritten channeling, like pulling some things down and writing it down in a blog type of atmosphere, and then pushing it out to help me get some information about what I wanted to be teaching today. And so things like assigning myself the duty of being the savior in every crisis moment. One of those people, you know us, because when the crisis kicks off, we begin sharing with you moment by moment every opportunity that is available. After a hurricane, what are the opportunities that we can see available after this crisis? Again, that's not a bad thing necessarily, unless you're addicted to the trauma and the drama and the pain and the crisis. And that's the only thing that ever gets you motivated to do healing. That's the only thing that ever gets you motivated to create abundance. And those are the types of things that I've been digging into, learning, because I went out and I helped create a nonprofit based on the tactical and practical things that I believe that we desired in our community, that I felt like was something I could do for my community, would help me create this food security situation. But in 2019, kind of the beginning of the end of the beginning of the next phase of where I am, I recognized I was dealing with some very severe health issues myself again. And one of the things that I will be doing when we launch this 4-week intensive garden healing course is talking about the different types of trauma that I have experienced in this lifetime. Because I believe that there are folks especially in this lifetime, in this space where we're at right now, I believe that there are folks that have touched the fire on purpose, that we knew when we came to this specific lifetime, after potentially many, many, many historical lifetimes, a very fire toucher. And when I say that, what that means is that when we see the hot fire with all the signs around it that say, do not touch, hot, you will burn yourself, we don't stop at the sign. And the reason is because we have something about us that requires hands in the dirt learning. When I say hands in the dirt learning, I'm never talking about, I take that back. When I say hands in the dirt learning, I'm not always talking about literally digging my hands in the dirt, getting the dirt under my fingernails. And you'll hear me talk about that in the dirt learning and the actual physical, practical reasons that hands in the dirt can be healing for you. But when I talk about hands in the dirt learning, a huge portion of what I'm talking about really has a lot more to do with the fact that we can't sometimes learn, especially folks like me. We can't learn what something feels like, what pain feels like, what trauma and drama feels like until we actually feel it. We have a deep, deep, deep depths of core of pain experience. And I have a lot of pain experience because that's a part of the hands in the dirt learning for me. And that's a part of the healing mechanism that my star, if you will, has aligned with in order to help share what it is I'm here to share with folks in this community, what things I'm here to share with in this network of collective consciousness that we're sharing in a space where we're looking to no longer survive through our coping mechanisms. We're looking to thrive. I no longer just want to use the coping mechanisms that I've learned. And yes, I want to help you with the beginning stages potentially of coping. How do I cope with these things? And I can give you some of those tools. And for me, the initial coping was simply just getting my hands in the dirt, sitting in the quiet, putting my feet on the ground. Whatever those were essentially the beginning stages of coping. But I'm ready. And I believe that many, many, many more of us are past the point of coping and to the point of thriving now. We're ready to thrive. We're ready to do more than cope. We're ready to experience, sit present in the moment of the pain that we're feeling and recognize what we're feeling and be willing to let it go. Be willing to recognize that trigger, maybe it's one of the ones that I was recently taught was, why do you allow yourself to continue to get distracted? What was the barriers that you put up around yourself to create a space where a distraction helps you stay out of whatever is going on around you? And why are you still holding on to that distraction? Are you still trying to heal from something? And if it's continually coming back to you, I'm continually distracted when I go in to give a public speaking event, when I'm continually distracted, what is it about that lesson that I'm potentially learning? Now, my garden is a sanctuary led, like I said, again, to 2019, after the start of a nonprofit, after beginning the understanding that I had, with stress and with the terms I've been using recently, can be a bit harsh, somewhat soul sucking. I had nothing left inside of me anymore. My cup wasn't full and I had nothing to give anymore. But I didn't stop giving because there was an obligation or a unset boundary that was allowed to constantly be crossed of giving and giving and giving. And I look to the world of other nonprofit executive directors now, and I think to myself, these are some folks that could benefit from some of this healing, given permission to understand that your self-care is of utmost importance. If your heart-centered, compassionate self desires to give and to communicate and to network and to share just like mine does, then we have to learn how to set our boundaries. And we have to learn that our self-care is equally as important as taking care of other people. And it's impossible to take care of other people if we haven't taken care of ourselves. It's very simple to use the analogy that is often used when you get on a plane to fly, where they say, okay, if you've got a child with you, if something happens and the oxygen masks drop down, I need you to first put your oxygen mask on first, mom or dad, depending on whoever has the kiddo there. Put your mask on first, because you can't help the child if you can't breathe or think, right? And this is community that is compassionate, that is empathetic, that is giving, that is sensitive, that is community, that heart-centered community type of networking person. You've given it all away. And what happens is that your body stops whispering. Your higher self, your God, the universe stops whispering and begins screaming at you. And mine was screaming at me. And what mine was screaming about was some sort of higher level of autoimmune disorder. Like my body was reacting to the way I was treating it, and I was dealing with a thyroid issue. And so in 2019, I shifted everything in my life in order to fix that problem because I was heartbroken. As you can imagine, I couldn't imagine a person like me who has given everything they have to healing, to wellness, to helping a community heal, to food insecurity, to helping people promote their own wellness and health. I had given everything I could to that. Why was it now that I wasn't healthy? How can I encourage you to be a healthy person if I'm not also healthy, if I'm not well? And when that happened, thanks to the unconditional love and support system that I have with my family, which is, I understand, a privilege, which is an entitlement. I understand that. And I am happy to recognize that I have access to things and I will use them because they were put there by God for me. They were put there by God so that I could touch the fire. But in the midst of touching the fire, always know that I had an unconditional love and support system that was going to be there to help me face the consequences for the decisions I had made. Because they're still mine, and it's still my decisions that I have made. And in that moment, when my health was failing, when I was confused about every relationship, every friendship, everything that I was doing, when I had to step away from what I would have considered my child, a nonprofit that I founded, grew, built, developed, loved, and spent a decade of my life giving everything I had to, that I had to let it go, that I had to let someone else take charge and raise that baby of mine. That was a big knockback. It was huge. But what happened was I listened enough and I had enough unconditional support to say, it's okay. Go back to what you know. Go back to what you know. Come home. Come home. And there, home in the garden with my hands in the dirt, I stopped tuning myself out. I stopped tuning my sickness out. I stopped tuning the pain out. And I started listening. And I listened. And I listened, and I was quiet. And I closed my eyes. And I began to focus on the present moment. I began to focus on the present moment every single day. And when I didn't have the opportunity to get out into a space of nature and birds and butterflies and the things that made me well, I could see it. I could feel it. My body would scream a little louder. Like, are we going outside? Are we going to the sanctuary? And so as I got quiet in the sanctuary, I began to see that the way lit up. And I began to heal. And I began to see that I was receiving a key to unlock the door of wellness and healing for me. Now, here's the part that you might never recognize about yourself. You might never see yourself as a gardener, and that's okay. You might see yourself as a gardener. You might look at me and go, oh, she can do it, but I can't. Well, I'm going to tell you that that's not the truth. I'm going to tell you that you have some old historical data about growing food and about growing plants that isn't true. Okay, so let's put that aside and not talk about the gardening aspects of this anymore. Let's focus on the healing aspects of this, because every single system in your life is no different than a garden. Everything I ever needed to learn about a garden, every single thing that I ever needed to learn about lifestyle or about life or about death or about grief or about healing or wealth, abundance, every single thing about connection, every single thing that I needed to learn about life, I can learn in the garden. Which, as you can imagine, as a mother of children that have gone to school and schooling and all of those kinds of things, I'm repeatedly questioning why this isn't how we're teaching more people. Now, I get it. Not everybody wants to be outside. Not everybody wants to be in nature. But the thing about it is that this is a space where we can learn skills, where we can learn spatial reasoning, where we can learn reading, where we can learn math, where we can learn problem solving, where we can learn the beauty in the breakdown. I've been singing this song over and over and over again in my head. And one of the things that I've begun thinking about as it relates to this concept of listening and healing and listening to what the quiet voice. And interestingly enough, the quiet voice, the more you listen, the quiet voice gets louder and it drowns out the screaming, nasty trauma voice that's going on over here. It drowns it out. And what's happening with me is that my inner voice, my God, the universe is creeping into the songs. And you know that it's easy to get in there. But if you stop for a second and go, why do I keep singing a song that I don't even know the author, the name of the musician? The song was Let Go by Frou Frou. Let go. There's healing in the breakdown. Let go. Healing. There's beauty in the breakdown. I'm a terrible singer, aren't I? Or whatever. I can sing however I want and it's good and it's bad and it's whatever. But there's beauty in the breakdown. Why am I repeating it? There's beauty in the breakdown to myself over and over and over and over. It's because I'm learning that it's okay to have crisis. That it's okay to see the beauty in the breakdown. And I can promise you, when you're trying to show a child or someone you're teaching, an adult, someone you're teaching about grief and the end of life and what happens after life and the network and the connection and all the things that we want to learn, you can see them happening right there in the garden. You can see in my sanctuary a network of sovereign life forms in complete communal connection, a network of sovereign life forms in complete communal connection. That's non-duality. Okay, what is non-duality? Because I've recently been questioned in this. Okay, well, no, maybe people don't know what duality and non-duality means. Well, non-duality is the fact that every single thing that exists, period, is of God, is God. That is what non-duality means. That is what it means when I say a network of sovereign life forms in complete communal connection. That's what we are. And I'm having a challenge in today's world. And I think it's exactly where I'm supposed to be teaching, exactly what I'm supposed to be teaching. I'm having a challenge in this binary world that we're living in where you are not allowed to be both. Why are you not allowed to be both? Why can you not be both sovereign and free and independent while also being a part of a complete and total communal connection? That is God. That is what it all is. And I can promise you that I see the beauty in the breakdown every single day when I look at a garden and recognize that every single one of those sovereign individual life forms in my garden are a part of a greater universal connection. Does that make sense? Do you feel what I'm saying? Underneath the soil, at the bare minimum, just this one thing that we have begun talking about, underneath the soil is an energetic network of mycorrhizal fungi, of mycelium. And within this network in the soil, the trees, the plants, the worms, the bacteria, every single life form communicates. Not only does it communicate, but it shares, it trades, it drives. Every single thing that is occurring from communication from one tree to another tree, it's all happening in this energetic force that's occurring underneath the soil. And that's just one of the energetic connections that exist in the universal nature of life. Because in the air, the trees are sharing hormones, just like humans do. This one over here makes some sort of allelopathic hormone, and this one over here makes a different, completely different allelopathic hormone going on over here. And they're talking to one another with this smell. This isn't far-fetched. These are things that I'm not going to get my head guillotined off this time. I'm not going to get burned at the stake again this time. I'm not going to get hammered to a cross again this time. Because these are things that with this connection of internet that I spoke about at the very beginning of this thing, us out in the, my friend called this a